He had walked past homeless people before. He had kept moving. That was the rule he gave himself years ago. Keep moving, or the weight of the world will pin you to the pavement. But this time his feet stopped without permission, because the woman sleeping on that bench wasn't a stranger, and the two little girls curled against her. They had his jaw. Both of them. Declan Marsh was worth $3 billion. He didn't look like it. No driver, no security detail, no watch that announced itself. He walked to work every Tuesday through Cheeseman Park in Denver, because he grew up poor enough to know that arrogance is just fear in expensive clothing. He built Marsh Capital Group from a single investment at 26 years old, and he ran it from a building downtown that most people passed without a second glance. He was precise, disciplined, controlled. He had not thought about Marisol Vega in weeks, or so he told himself. He had not seen her in 6 years and 4 months. Not since the night she stood in his doorway in the rain and said she needed space, that she had to figure things out alone, that she was sorry. He had called 3 times. She had not answered. He had stopped calling. He had not known why she really left. Until a Tuesday morning in October, when he looked at a park bench and the answer was staring back at him with his own eyes. 2 of them. Identical. He froze. Not figuratively. His body actually stopped mid-stride on the gravel path. 1 foot still raised, briefcase swinging forward before he caught it. The woman on the bench was Marisol. Dark hair across the armrest. That particular way she collapsed. Inward when she was past exhaustion. Shoulders curved. Chin dropped. He had seen that posture once before, years ago, after a double shift at the restaurant where they first met. On either side of her, tucked under each arm like small birds hiding from wind, were 2 little girls, 5, maybe 6 years old, identical faces, flushed cheeks from the cold, mouths slightly open in sleep. He did the math he did not want to do. 6 years. Same dark curls as their mother, but the jaw, squared with that slight forward set, that was not Marisol. And the brow line, and the shape of the nose, that was him. Twice. He must have stepped too close, because one of the girls opened her eyes without warning. She looked at him with zero fear. Pure, unfiltered curiosity. The way children look at the world before someone teaches them to be afraid of it. She reached up and tugged her mother's sleeve. Marisol's eyes opened, took 1 second to focus, then every trace of sleep vanished from her face like someone had thrown cold water across it. She sat up fast. Both girls stirred. She pulled them against her in one sharp, instinctive motion. A wall made of arms. Declan! Her voice was rough. Stripped down. No performance in it. He looked at the girls. Back at her. How old are they? She said nothing. Marisol? His voice dropped to something he didn't entirely recognize. How old? She closed her eyes for 1 second. 6 in February. The number landed in his chest like a stone dropped from height. She told him everything on that bench. Not because she wanted to, because she was out of energy for anything else. After leaving Denver, she had gone to Phoenix. She had a sister there, Valentina, who had a spare room and a steady job. Marisol had managed the pregnancy, alone, and had made that decision. Consciously, she had been terrified that Declan would want to be involved, and more terrified that he would not. And she had chosen to remove the variable entirely. She said it plainly. No defense. No apology. The girls were Camille and Renata. Camille had been born first, and had never once recovered from the confidence it gave her. Renata had come 4 minutes later, and had spent every day, since watching the world carefully, before engaging with it. In Phoenix, things had been tight but workable. Then Valentina's husband got laid off. The apartment collapsed. Marisol had packed her car 3 days ago with the girls. 2 bags and enough cash for a week, and driven back toward Denver, chasing a housing assistance program she'd found online. Her car had broken down on I-70. A tow truck had brought them to the city. The program office didn't open until Thursday. She said all of it in the flat, efficient tone of someone who stopped asking for sympathy long ago. When she finished, Declan was quiet for a moment. "You should have called me," he said. Marisol turned and looked at him directly for the first time. "I know how that sounds, and I know what you're feeling right now, but I need you to understand that every decision I made it because I thought it was right. Not to punish you. I understand that. Do you?" I'm trying to. Camille, who had climbed down from the bench and conducted an independent investigation of the surrounding gravel, reappeared and held a pigeon feather directly up to Declan's face. It's a good one, she told him with authority. He examined it seriously. It's excellent. She studied him for exactly 3 seconds and then sat down between him and Marisol as though she had resolved something internally and was moving on. Renata stayed 3 feet away, watching him the way her mother had watched him, measuring. Patient, not yet decided. He made arrangements quietly. He knew a building in Capitol Hill, his building, though he described it as belonging to a colleague who owed him a favor, with a furnished short-term unit available. Marisol accepted with the reluctant practicality of a woman who has 2 children and no remaining options. He didn't linger the first day, or the second. He brought groceries, exchanged a few words, left, but he came back, each time with a reason, a grocery item he had forgotten, a document about housing program he had found, something small and logistical that did not require explanation. By the 4th evening, he was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor while Renata explained at significant length why her block tower was structurally superior to anything Camille had ever built. Camille, from across the room, did not look up from her drawing. Mine fell because of an earthquake. There was no earthquake, Renata said. There was a small one. Declan kept his face neutral. Marisol stood in the kitchen doorway watching all 3 of them, and her expression was the most complicated thing he had ever seen. Day 6. He forgot to remove the lease agreement from his bag. It was on the kitchen counter when she found it. His name at the top, clear as anything. She had the paper in her hand when he walked through the door. Her eyes went to him immediately. He didn't pretend. He knew better. It's mine, he said. The silence that followed had weight. How much else has been a favor? Her voice was controlled, which was somehow more alarming than if she had raised it. Just the apartment. You lied to me. I knew you'd refuse it if I told you the truth. Because it's not yours to give. She set the paper on the counter carefully. Deliberate, measured. I have spent 6 years making sure my daughters never feel like a burden on anyone. And you just... She stopped. Reset. You made me a charity case without asking. That's not what this is. From where I'm standing, you were sleeping on a bench, he said, and his voice came out harder than he intended. In 40-degree weather, with my daughters. The words sat between them like a match. And I'm the one being dishonest? Her eyes went sharp. Don't do that. I'm stating facts. Don't use them as a weapon. She took a breath. I am not doing this in front of them. The girls were in the next room. Quiet now. Children always hear the tone before the words. Marisol walked to the bedroom. The door closed behind her without a sound, and somehow that was worse than a slam. Declan stood in the kitchen of his own building and felt like the least powerful man alive. From the other room, barely a whisper. Renata's voice. Is Mama crying? Camille, quieter. Give her a minute. 6 years old? And they already knew the protocol. He let himself out. He stayed away 3 days. He told himself she needed space. He sat in his office on the 14th floor and stared at contracts he could not read. His assistant Bridget, 9 years with him, zero tolerance for evasion, placed a coffee on his desk the second morning and said, Whatever it is, it's affecting your work. He looked up. You initialed a lunch order. He told her enough. She listened without filling the silence, which was mark of someone actually paying attention. When he finished, Bridget said, She's not angry about the apartment. She seemed angry about the apartment. She's terrified. Bridget picked up unsigned contracts. Because you're already starting to matter again. And she has 2 children to protect this time. He drove to Capitol Hill that evening and sat in his car outside the building for 22 minutes. A man who had structured billion-dollar acquisitions could not arrange a sentence. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Hi? Small voice, precise. It's Renata. He went completely still. How did you get this number? Mama writes down numbers for people who are safe. In the junk drawer. A pause, brief and businesslike. She made soup. A lot of soup. She only makes that much when she's sad. He got out of the car before she finished the sentence. Marisol let him in. She looked at him for a moment, measuring, deciding, then stepped back. The girls were at the table. Camille waved like he had never left. Renata gave a small, satisfied nod, her plan apparently concluded successfully. I need to tell you something, Declan said. All of it. And I'd like you to let me finish. Marisol sat. The girls went quiet. He told her about Marsh Capital. What it actually was, not a mid-size investment firm, not a side operation. He told her the number, plainly because dressing it up would have been its own kind of lie. 3 billion, privately held. No press, no profile. Built from one deal at age 26 and grown quietly for 15 years. She stared at him. He kept going. I didn't tell you 7 years ago because I was in the middle of building it. And I had watched money destroy my father. The day his construction company turned profitable, he became someone unrecognizable. Like the wealth just rewrote him. He looked at his hands. I was so afraid of that happening to me that I kept everything at arm's length. Including people who deserved better. Marisol's voice, when it came, was quiet. You were a billionaire when we were together. Not quite close. And you said nothing. I was afraid of what it would do to us. She stood up from the table, walked to the window. For a long moment she said nothing, just looked at the street below. I left, she said finally, because I found out I was pregnant, and I was terrified that a man like you, driven, controlled, obsessed with building something, would look at 2 babies and see an obligation, not a life. She turned. I couldn't survive watching you resent us, so I made the choice for you. That wasn't your choice to make. I know. No hesitation. No defense. I was wrong. I have known that for a long time. Camille, who had been absorbing everything with the focused attention of a courtroom stenographer, raised her hand. Are you rich? She asked Declan. Camille, Marisol started. I'm just asking, Camille said. Declan looked at her. Then at Renata. Then at Marisol. I have enough, he said. The question is what for? He didn't push for an answer that night. He didn't need to. He came back Saturday without anything in his hands. No groceries, no paperwork, no excuse, just himself. They walked in Cheeseman Park, the same path where he had frozen 6 days earlier. The girls ran ahead. The October sky had cleared into that sharp particular blue that only Denver does in autumn, the kind of blue that makes everything look like a decision. They walked for a long time before Marisol spoke. I convinced myself I was protecting them, she said. And I was. But I was also protecting myself. From what? From needing you. She kept her eyes on the path. From what happens if I need someone and they don't stay. Declan stopped walking. She stopped too. He turned to face her. And then he did something that was not in his nature. Something that cost him something real. He stepped forward, closed the distance, and said the thing he should have said on the bench 6 days ago. I'm not here to rescue you. His voice was steady, direct. I'm here because they are my daughters, and because you are the one person I have never been able to file away. He paused. I stayed humble because I was afraid of losing myself. But I lost you anyway. I would like to stop making that kind of mistake. Marisol looked at him for a long moment. Renata appeared between them without warning. Her small face tipped upward, reading both of them the way she had from that very first morning on the bench. Then she took Declan's hand, looked at her mother, held out her other hand. Marisol looked down at her daughter. Something crossed her face, something that had been defended against for 6 years, and finally, quietly let go. She took Renata's hand. The 4 of them stood there on the gravel path while Camille, 40 feet ahead, had moved on to chasing pigeons again, completely unbothered, already living in whatever came next. Declan looked down at the small hand holding his, warm, certain, no conditions. He had built a company. He had built a reputation. He had built walls around everything that mattered. He had never once been chosen this simply by someone this small, who asked for absolutely nothing in return. Renata started walking forward, pulling them both. And for the first time in 6 years, Declan Marsh followed someone else's lead. Watch the next story on your screen.